I came into this life traumatized, and it wasn't until later on that I learned from a psychic that my previous life before this one, and she's correct, I was a World War II, a Jewish World War II victim that had open brain surgery.
Hey Tara, welcome to the Celeste Ball podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here, Tania. Thank you for having me.
So, our audience don't know much about you, but I know because we've had so many conversations, we've had meetings, we've had those workshops. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you get into the hypnotherapy and how did you get into past life regressions?
Okay, so my path is a very interesting path. I was born into a bloodline of, well, all different types of nationalities, but some are witch doctors, some are shamans, some are Scottish royalty, but I was brought up with quite a Catholic upbringing by my mother, but she was also very open to the afterlife. She would talk a lot about the afterlife, which I'm very grateful for, because even though I held a lot of the fears around her stories, I was also able to have that knowledge, have that wisdom about ghosts and poltergeists and the afterlife and what happens to us when we die and what spirits look like, and visits from her grandmother. She would get visits from her grandmother throughout her life, and the visits usually came at times where she was in need and needed something. So I thank my mum for that upbringing. That led me to, when I was very young, I went through quite a lot of trauma. I was born on the equator and I had a very traumatic birth. So I came in inside out, upside down for each birth and screaming, and I was 8 weeks premature as well. So I came into this life traumatized. And it wasn't until later on that I learned from a psychic that my previous life before this one, and she's correct, I was a World War II, a Jewish World War II victim that had open brain surgery. That explains the trauma. So I ended up, nothing's random, I ended up in that situation in my life that's the vibrational frequency before this one. So the vibrational frequency was that Jewish life, which led me into this traumatic life. But I chose to incarnate into so much trauma. I was abducted as a child. I won't go into that because that's actually quite a long story, but I went through being abducted at 18 months old. I was missing for 9 months and then returned to my mum. So I chose that, but that was all to go through a dark night of the soul very early in life. So by the time I was 5 or 6, I do remember seeing auras, and that was because of the anxiety that I got, which brought on the light. So the more darkness we can go through on our journey, the more we learn, the more we experience it, and it opens us up to the light. So you can imagine this pencil here. So if you can imagine, that's the darkness that we go through, and that's the light. So I chose to come into this life and go through a lot of trauma, all that darkness, to open me up to the light. And that's how it works. So if I was to come into this life and I'm just going to have a little bit of trauma, I'm just going to have a little bit of pain and suffering because that's all I want in this lifetime, I will learn a little bit and I will open up the light a little bit. So with all the trauma and suffering and anxiety and anger and violence and pain that I've been through in my lifetime, it opened me right up to having a Kundalini awakening experience. And I got into, over my life, I went through lots of drama, lots of violence, lots of trauma, alcoholism, where basically right through my whole 20s, I didn't write myself off, but I had lots of fun. And through that fun, as you would probably be aware, lots of alcohol blocks the pineal gland. So my beautiful abilities, my gifts were being hidden behind the veil. So all that alcohol I had was not a good thing, but it was all part of the process, all part of the clearing that I went through later on. So in my 20s, throughout my 20s, I started to wake up slowly, but I'd still sort of get on the wagon, get off the wagon, get on the wagon, get off the wagon. So by the time I was in my 30s, I was in the process of leaving my mainstream job and starting to do something part-time on the side to help people. I'm 50 now, and I know I don't look it, but I'm 50.
You look amazing.
So I'm
Oh,
50.
wow.
Thank you. But I'm 50 now. So basically, so 20 odd years ago, I started to slowly get on the path to helping people. And I've always known that I was going to help people in some way. And I always knew that I was going to be doing some kind of clearing of ghosts and spirits and that kind of thing out of properties. I just wasn't sure when I would have the confidence to do that, but I do that now as well as being a hypnotherapist in past life hypnotherapy. So I do past life hypnotherapy, and I also I'm a Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique level 2 practitioner. So I've hypnotised thousands of people in that modality as well as past life hypnotherapy. So they're both a little bit different. They just work differently with different people. So I started getting into this, not the hypnotherapy, until probably mid-30s. I started getting into hypnotherapy and meditation. I became a meditation teacher. I started getting into meditation and meditating a lot to try and cure my anxiety, because I had chronic anxiety. So that definitely helped, to the point where I'd hit rock bottom again. I'd gone through another dark night of the soul, and I'd hit rock bottom. I was at a point in my life, I was actually in a career, my main job, that I really did not like. It was a corporate job. I wasn't happy. I was working in accounting, corporate world. I was completely off my path. I was listening to other people telling me what to do, and I was looking at the financial reasons of not fun. I wasn't looking at love and fun and happiness. And then my son's 14 now, and he was born, and I was having to put my son into daycare, which completely was going against my code, who I was, and I wasn't happy. So I ended up with chronic depression, but I needed to go through this depression. I needed to go through this dark night of the soul in order to find my light again, in order to be where I am now to help people. So I meditated and I meditated and I meditated, and I went inward, and I found my inner spark simply by listening to my dreams. Someone told me, a wise psychic I went to when I was 23 or 24. She gave me so much wisdom. She did a psychic reading, like a past life reading, similar to what I do now. And she told me about some of my past lives, which she was spot on. But she also said to me, start manifesting. Manifest everything you want. Manifest, and I was, that age, I was looking for love, I was lost soul, and she's like, manifest your husband, write him a letter, put down exactly what you want, be fussy, write every little aspect of him that you want in your life, and go and post it in the little red box. Actually post it. And I'm like, post it? She's like, yeah, put it in the post, send it away. And this is 25, 26 years ago. People didn't manifest back then. And I'm like, seriously? And I kind of did it thinking, this is weird, but I'm going to do it because I really trusted in her wisdom. That I got really fussy and I posted that letter. And I had to wait a few years, but he came along, and she said to me, I'm going a little bit off track here, but I'll just stick with what I'm saying. She said to me, you're going to meet your husband. When you post it, it's going to work. You're going to go and you're going to live in a little island, and then you're going to go and live in a big island, and then you're going to meet your husband, and he's got these beautiful eyes. He's got these beautiful coloured eyes. They're not blue, they're not green. They're somewhere in between, but they're beautiful eyes, and he works in the outdoors. And I'm like, what's he look like? Tell me more about what he looks like. She's like, no, I'm not going to tell you anymore, just that. She says, stop living your life like you're trying to drive a boat. You're trying to steer the boat. Stop trying to steer the boat. Just go with it. Just go with it, she's saying to me. And I'm thinking, crikey, you're weird. You're a weird lady at the time. And then when I thought about it after, I met my husband. Everything she said was spot on. I met him. I went to a little island and I worked there for a little while. And I didn't stay there. I ended up going to Canada, and I ended up travelling South America and a few other places, America, and I went to Canada and I worked in Canada. And I met him while I was in Canada. I met him twice at my work. I was actually working as a night auditor in this backpacker hostel, and I worked that job and I worked a bar job. But I met him while I was doing the audit on the computer. And that was in the days, this would have been before your time, Tania, that was in the days when we had the Hotmail chat rooms. I don't know if you remember that.
We had something, but my parents just cut it all off. So we had to, I don't even remember. They hit the Wi-Fi router, they hit the computer. It was like really bad, right? The internet. So
Yeah, so it was like a map. You'd go on the internet and it was like a map. And I was working as a night audit in Canada, and I'd been there for nearly a year, and I was getting homesick. So I looked up Australia on the map. I was getting homesick for home. And I clicked on Australia, Queensland, North Queensland, and I saw my husband in there. And we started to talk. And he said, I told him my name, and he says, I know who you are. I know who you are. Because he'd actually met me at my work that I was working at in the same town he was living in. So that was the twice at the work. So the psychic was spot on. So this resonated. So I'm like, this lady knew what she was talking about. So I met him in the travel agency I was working in. He came in the travel agency, and I just served him as normal. There was no like, oh, I like him or anything like that. He said he had a bit of a thing for me when he met me, but he had a girlfriend. So that's why nothing ever happened that first time. And then the second time I met him while I'm all the way on the other side of the world, and we started talking, and then we ended up together, and we've been together over 20 years now. So that happened. And then I'm telling you that because that psychic, she was spot on with everything, and she told me about those past lives, and I just knew, that's got to be right. There's got to be something in that. When I was small at primary school, I could never focus on the schoolwork. I would close my eyes and just daydream and go into this daydream state, and I would go into my past lives there and then. But at that moment when I was doing it, when I was daydreaming and just going into the pictures, I thought I was just making things up. I just thought I was using my imagination and daydreaming and just going off with the fairies. But I was actually going into other realms in the classroom. And it wasn't until later in my life I realised that I had this gift of being able to go into meditation and see my past lives. And this is what you can do. So to go and see your past lives, you can meditate and trust. It's important that you trust and believe in your connection. Trust and believe that everything, every experience, every trauma, every hurt, every suffering, every abuse, everything that you've been through up until now is part of just the perfect way you're meant to be to learn the lessons you've learned. So if you can move into the vibration of acceptance and accept that everything that has happened, and it's meant to happen perfectly, just the way you are. And we are perfect. It's important to remember we are perfect, just the way we are. We may not believe it, but the more you start to tell yourself how perfect you are. And when I was younger, I thought I was ugly. And I went to school, and when I was 12, I was getting bullied by these really mean kids, these children, and I actually believed them. They used to call me something along the lines of eagle beak because they said I looked like a bird. I look like a bird. And even if I do look a little bit like a bird, that is actually the perfect way I was meant to come out, because ironically, the bird, the eagle, is my spirit animal. So when I do my little shaman journeying with my drums, I go off with the birds. I go off with my spirit animal, with my eagle. And it's the eagle that's a very big part of my life. It's the eagle that I've worked with. We can work with different animals, different spirit animals, as we journey through our lives. And those different animals will teach us different strengths, different lessons. So the eagle taught me strength and confidence. So those children that bullied me, at the time, I hated myself. I remember one night I'd come home, I was only 12, I was only a baby. I come home and I said to my mum and dad, I'm going to end it. I don't want to live. I don't want to be here. And I remember crying to them, and I had very young parents. My parents were my mum was 22 when she had me, 21 when she had my brother. And so they were very young, naive, and they were kind of party parents, liked to drink and have fun. Everything was fun. And when I was telling them about this, they didn't know what to do. And their way of dealing with it was to just ignore it. Oh, don't worry, you'll be okay. But it really affected me. And I remember I used the power of my connection to prayer. And I've got my mum's religious beliefs to thank for that, because the power of prayer, I went inward. I still remember as clear as day praying and praying and praying for the bullies to go away. And I prayed, and that night I was awakened in the corner of the room. The room just lit up bright white and blue. And the whole room just lit up. And I started to see like a silhouette of an angel. But the fear popped in. So I could see that it was very beautiful. I could feel it. It was very beautiful, very angelic. But then the fear popped in, and my mum, I'm thinking of my mum, oh my God, all those scary stories she told me about the ghosts come to get me. So I put the pillow over my head. So I didn't experience the full, beautiful situation that I wish I had have experienced at that time. At that time, it was love, but then it was fear. Then the ego set in, and it was fear. So I went to sleep, but the very next day, I can't remember if it was the next day or maybe the day after that, it was in a 3-day window somewhere. My dad, who was actually my stepdad brought me up. He brought me up from age 18 months old. He came home from work. He was in the army. He was in the military, and he loved where we lived. We lived in a place in North Queensland, Australia. The fishing and the outdoors and the warm weather, he loved that. He was really happy. And he come home really angry because we were getting posted to another town. We were getting posted to Victoria, Melbourne, just outside Melbourne, a little town called Seymour, where we moved to, and it was within weeks. It was like, boom, this transition. I manifested this transition with the power of prayer, and that got me on the path as well. So just being able to go through that and manifest that just like that blew me away. And that made me realise that the power of prayer is within us, and it's important that as hard as life gets, as tough as the obstacles are that we're faced with, we can get through them with the power of prayer. The answers are here inside of ourselves, never outside of ourselves. Too many of us look outside of ourselves for the answers. And this is what I love about past life regression and quantum healing hypnosis technique. They're healing where you go inside of yourself. So they're tools that we can use to take you in here, inside of yourself, to where your true self is. So we go into where the answers are.
So can you explain, you were talking about past life hypnotherapy and quantum healing. How are both of these different? When you say tools, right? How does that work?
There. So the outcome is the same. So the outcome is just say, let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got a sister that you just butt heads all your life. You've just butted heads and you can't stand each other to the verge of hate. You hate each other. And you want to know, we've got to fix this. We have to fix this because we have to go to family gatherings. It's causing chaos and dysfunction. And you get on this downward spiral with this sister where you start to project that anger out to other people. So you come and have, let's say you come and have a QHHT session to help with the chaos and dysfunction with the sister. So I'm just using the situation as an example. So what I would do is sit down, we have a good chat about your problem, and you would tell me questions you have about your life. How, if you were sitting in a room with your higher self, what would you want to know? What would you want to know about that situation? How it relates to past lives, your past life. And I would, once I get the story, your cast of characters, who's in your life, understand a bit about your situation, I've gone through your questions with you, I will then guide you to your past life using Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And it's always one-on-one, always in person. So we go to the past life and you will be shown a time and place that's relevant to your life with your sister to get the answers. Let's say you're shown a situation where your sister murdered you. You may have been cousins. Let's say you were cousins. I'm just making this up. Let's say you were cousins in your past life and you were fighting over the same boy. There was betrayal and your cousin murdered you. And it's like, that's why we can't stand each other. Because we didn't ever get that resolved. We didn't ever get to the point of acceptance, accepting the situation, understanding the situation. So what QHHT does, it helps you accept, understand it, and then I connect you with the higher self in the healing part. So we move out of the past life to the last day of the life. We see how you died, and most of the time it's just an easy falling asleep, or you might have an illness that you die of or something like that. And your higher self, if it is a traumatic death, your higher self, your subconscious, your deep subconscious, that part of your mind that knows you, that knows every life you've lived, every lesson you've learned, every purpose you've served, that subconscious will only show you what you can handle. So it's not going to show you a life that's where you might have got your head chopped off and it's going to freak you out. It won't show. If that's going to freak you out, it will show you something where you're still going to get the story, because many of these lives, so this life with your sister where there was betrayal, it's more than likely happened over and over and over, and it just keeps happening until you get the message. You have to keep coming back. So you keep coming back with this individual until you can learn the lesson. And the lesson is around forgiveness. It's an opportunity to forgive. So let's say that was the past life, and then we bring the highest up. We take you to the last day of the life, see how you died, because that's usually relevant as well. And then I'll call in the higher self or the subconscious. I have a conversation with the subconscious about you. So we'll have a conversation about that situation to get all of the answers that we need and the healing that that person needs. So we can, from there, we can go into healing realms. We can call on archangels. I've had beautiful archangels come into sessions and heal that person. So I've had clients that have physical issues. So they may have chronic anxiety, and they get not only the knowledge and wisdom needed to let it go, but they also get the healing that they need. So it's a very beautiful one-on-one direct contact with your highest self. That's the QHHT version. It will really help with your intuition as well, connecting in this way. So that's how that works. It's about a 5-hour session. So the actual hypnosis part is usually around 3 hours, and we have a pre-talk and then a talk at the end. So it's around about 5 hours. So same issue. If we were to have the same issue, let's say, I'll keep the same issue, so talking about these two sisters that can't stand each other. If I was to use past life hypnotherapy, what I will do is guide you using hypnotherapy, so guide you like inner child. I'll guide you into your inner child. Then I'll guide you into your inner child again to get a really good look at why you don't like each other. And then we may go back, depending on the person, we may go back a little more into the utero to see if anything was going on there. If it's related to the in utero, that's where we'll go. And you'll find a lot of the time there's some jealousy starting around there. Then we'll go into a past life that way so we'll go to the in utero and then we'll keep going back into the past life. So that's how we'll land. So we still go into the past life to see what happened. From that past life, virtually the same, very much the same. I move the person around from moment to moment to get a bit of the story about their story together, why they don't like each other, what happened. And we'll go to the last day of the life, I'll float the person out of the last, well, they float out of it, I'm just the guide. We go out of it, and that's where, once you're on the other side, that's where the healing starts, because we can use, so in a situation like that, where forgiveness is needed, at the soul level, once they're on the other side of that life, they're still in the theta brainwave, so at that soul level, we ask to retrieve soul facets, lost soul facets that were given to the other person. So we can do soul facet retrieval if that's needed. If forgiveness is needed, we will forgive the other person. We will cut cords.
You cut cords? How do you cut cords during the hypnosis?
So there's cords. So if you have a negative, well, nothing's negative. I shouldn't say that word, because nothing is negative. Everything's positive. It's the polarity, dark to light, light to dark. So if you're angry at another soul, and let's say they feel resentment towards you, it doesn't have to be the same vibration towards each other, but it attracts a cord that goes from that part of your body where you hold the anger to the part of their body where they hold the resentment. So there is an invisible silver cord that goes between you and them. So once we know what it is, so we will have a bit of a conversation back and forth about the situation until it's delving into the shadows, the parts of us that we don't know about. So we have a conversation. So I'm getting the person that's under is having a conversation with the soul of the other person to find out, what is this? And what did she say? And what did you say? And to get the emotion of it. And then when they're ready, are you ready to cut the cord? They'll cut it. They'll cut the cord. And what that does is releases them so that they can start to be their true selves again. And that's when we will ask for the energy to come back to them as well. See, a lot of our energy we give away. So whenever there's a trauma, especially trauma, if you can imagine all of the traumas all of your ancestors have been through in all of those lifetimes before you, if you go all the way back, so much trauma, it's in your DNA. You have the DNA of all of those ancestors. And part of why we're here is to clear it, is to heal it. And we heal it once we delve into our soul, everything at soul level, we start to heal our DNA, which starts to heal the DNA of all of those ancestors, because you are your ancestors. You've had past lives as your ancestors. You've been your ancestors. Not always, not always. Some souls choose to incarnate, especially a lot of the star seeds that are coming in now, a lot of the star seeds that are coming in, they're new souls. This is their first life. They're brand new. Doesn't mean their soul's brand new. They're new to Earth. So I call them new souls because they're new to Earth. But they're old souls. So they've had a different journey to here. So can you see the difference between?
I can. When you're talking about it, right, all I can think about is the reason why I wouldn't have spoken about all of this or understood anything you speak about if AI had not come out, you know? Because when AI came out, I began to realize how similar our brain works with AI. Because what does AI do? AI is just accumulating all of the information that is there on the internet, everything that is ever possible. And then when you ask the right question, it will give the answer to it based on all the information that it is gathering. So then when I started hearing people say that our DNA holds the information of not just this life, but also our past lives, also way before the earth was even created, everything, then it makes sense that for someone to say that I'm now awakened and I can now access that information that is in my, you have to explain what subconscious mind is. But when they say that you can now access that information, it is very similar to how AI works. It's just me asking the right question to get the answers. So for me right now at this stage, I'm not able to access those information. And that is where I need your help. So when you put me into that trance state and then you ask the questions, the right questions that I need to know, then from this master drive or this master hard disk, they are pulling out the information that I require. And it makes sense. But my question is, what if, because, I attended the workshop where we were trying to do the past life regression. And you told me at 300, I don't know if you're there, I told you, but you said, okay, now imagine you're 300 years into the future. What are you going to do? And I just thought, okay, let's find out. And I started thinking about these visions of me being a blue being on a flying city in the galaxy came up, and I'm interacting with God on projects. And I'm like, oh, come on. While I'm thinking about these incidents, in my head, I'm thinking, this is BS, because I watched Star Wars 2 weeks back, and I'm like, I'm just making stuff up from Star Wars. This can't be real. This can't be true. And that's what I mentioned to you. How do we even know that this is real, right? How do you know that whatever your client is saying is real and that they're probably not faking it?
Well, firstly, where did they get that idea from Star Wars? But it came from someone's truth. It's important to trust it, like when you're doing this kind of work. So how that works with future. So with the future life, you will get your future depends on, and I'm doing this because it's like the frequency that you are at in the here and now will predict your future. So I'm not talking about vibration, that's different. So vibration, so if just let's say I choose to hold on to my anxiety. I don't learn. I get so many opportunities and I had so many opportunities to move through my anxiety. I avoided rape so many times in my lifetime. I was so lucky. And I always had this these angels looking over me all the time, and I still do. We all do. But the more you trust it, the more you acknowledge it, trust it, give gratitude to it, especially when it happens, when you notice something, an aha moment that happens. Even if it's just something like looking at the clock and you constantly see triple numbers. 111. Oh, it's 111. Oh, it's 333. Oh, it's 555. I do that everywhere I go. I always say, thank you, thank you, thank you, angels. I love you, I love you, I love you. Thank you. Straight away, you've brought your vibration up to gratitude. It doesn't matter what you were thinking in that moment. You might have been really angry at someone, or you might have been really worried or anxious about money or something like that. But that's the more you do that, the more you work on your vibration. But someone can be so worldly and be in a really high frequency because they're very aware and they're very wise. They're very wise old souls. They just know what's happening. They just know what's going on. They don't know why they know, but they just know, and they trust. This is where this trust and belief in the power of your spirit is really important. So someone can be really worldly but still have a really low vibration. So they can hold on to all this stuff down here and they still have to work on that. So their channel, their frequency is really high, but they still have low vibrational. And then opposite to that, you can get souls that are really high in vibration. So they're, yay, let's have fun. Let's party. Let's manifest. Let's do some affirmations. Yay! You know, like the real cheerleader people. So you can have a cheerleader that's really excited and very high in vibration, but their frequency is quite low because they're blocked. And this comes from the water we drink, the chemicals we ingest into our body, things that block our third eye. So someone can be so high in vibration, but yet their frequency is quite low. So it all comes down to being open, everything. You're not right about everything. I could be wrong. There's things that I've said to just in this last 30 minutes or so. There's probably things that I've said that aren't quite right, that need tweaking, that need adjusting. I'm not perfect, but this is just my experience. So what my experience is may not be relevant to another soul's journey. So hypnosis, QHHT hypnosis, or past life hypnotherapy may not be perfect for one soul, but they'll be perfect for other souls. So you've just got to trust. You've just got to trust that you're watching this, the audience is watching this because the universe is showing it to them. And the more you trust it and the more you believe in it, the more you'll trust that it is real. And the proof is actually in what happens after someone has past life regression hypnosis. So the proof is, there's a lady, I remember when I'm sure I was in my 20s. I might have even been younger, and this is another thing that led me into past lives. I watched this show. The lady's name was Jenny Cockle. At 3 years old, she was seeing her past lives. It was in Britain. I think she was living in England. And when she got old enough, she was getting all of this information about her past lives. She knew she was this woman in Ireland. She said the name. So I think she must have gone and had a past life regression. Mary Sutton. So she knew her name was Mary Sutton, and she lived in Ireland, and she had 8 children, something like that. And then she used the information to go deeper, to delve deeper, and she got the street name, the house number. She walked around to that house, knocked on the door, and those children were there. They were all grown up, older than her. So I think it was the son that answered the door. And she said, I'm Mary Sutton, but I'm not Mary Sutton. And he's like, huh? You know, but they sat down and had tea, and she realised that she was the actual mother of all of these children, and 5 of them were still alive. They were very old, but 5 of them, he was still living in that same house, the son, but 5 of her children from that past life. So the proof is in this kind of thing. I had a client, just going on, more proof. I had a client, I had an amazing regret. It was one of my very first QHHT sessions that I did. He had chronic anxiety and he was afraid of speaking in groups. So this man came to me. He had quite a high profile job in the corporate world. He was a high up manager. He would have to speak his truth to other managers that were higher up than he was. And it was becoming a problem because he was having to make decisions that he didn't agree with. And he knew that it was wrong, but he was too afraid. He would just choose to go along with what they were telling him to do. And he was afraid to speak his truth. So he came and had a session, and it was an amazing session. He went into a life. When I first regressed him, he looked down and he was in a cornfield in a town. He got the name of the town, Boise, Idaho. And this man didn't know America at all. He hadn't even heard, what's Boise? He hadn't even heard of what Boise is. Who has? Not many people have unless you're American. He got the street name. I tell this story a bit, so I think it was Hawks Road. I think that's what the name of the road was. So he got the street name, Cornfields. He woke up in a farm. So he opened his eyes and he looked around and he was in a beautiful cornfield farm, and he was an only child, normal parents. He grew up normal, what Dolores Cannon calls a growing potatoes life. That's how she refers it to. A normal, just, growing potatoes life. So it was a normal life until he grew up, and it was around about the 1920s. We worked out after it was around about the 1920s, because I don't think he actually got the year off his higher self, but he might have. So he was taught how to fly planes. So he joined the Air Force, and he was taught how to fly I think it's called B-25 Mitchell bomber aeroplanes. So he was taught how to fly these planes, and they were testing these planes for World War II. Apparently, he went and researched after, actually, before I tell you that. So he was flying the planes, and then I moved him forward to a time when the anxiety kicked in. And his boss was standing there in front of him. It was the lieutenant colonel that was standing there in front of him and said, "Go and fly that plane. We need you to fly that plane." And he said, "Oh no, I can't fly that plane. There's something wrong with that plane." And the lieutenant colonel's like, "Just go and fly that effing plane. Just do it." And so he was too afraid to speak up and tell him no, but he knew something bad was going to happen. He knew it was wrong. He let the fear of being rejected by someone in authority dictate what he truly wanted in his heart. So he chose to fly the plane. So he got in, and I believe this plane took about 5 crew. So him and 5 crew got in, went up, and something happened with the engine, and all of the crew got out. He managed to get all of his crew out in parachutes. He saved his crew, and by the time it was his turn to jump out, the plane had crashed. And he died there. That was the last day of his life. He died in the plane crash. And when I brought him out, so from there, from the last day of the life, they float out of the body. So he floats out the body. And I'm having a conversation with him while he's flying out the body. And I asked to speak to his subconscious, his higher self. And he says, "You don't." I said, "Why? What was the purpose of that lifetime?" He said, "Whatever you do, you don't speak up." And that was his limiting belief. That was his negative belief. You don't speak up. And that's why in his current life, you don't speak up. You just do what you're told. So his higher self said, you just do what you're told. When someone in authority tells you what to do, you just do it. So can you see how that strong... He was so afraid to speak his truth. It led to his death. But once he went back and he looked at that life and he could see how serious it was, how it led to his death, on the other side of it, he said, "I'm going to start to speak my truth now, because this is now serious. I don't need to leave. I don't need to carry this fear back with me into my current life." So we left that fear behind in that life. And he went to work he did a bit of research on the place, and he actually found the street. So the street was there. The Hawks Road was there. And he said that back, it was like a suburb. It was all suburbs with little houses. But back in the 1920s, it was farmlands. So if he really wanted to, he could probably go and research. And he actually got, I can't say the name, but he actually got the full name of his name in that lifetime as well. So if he went and researched further, he would have found out that it was right. And he also went to work that following week, telling his bosses what for. No, this is how, and since been promoted. Yeah. So that's the proof. The proof is in the people that experience it. The healing is in the people. We can also, in QHHT, you can get secondary healing. So with a QHHT session, when we're in contact with the higher self, we can ask for healing. So that's a part of what the healing process.
Story.
So if you have some, let's say you've got a bad wrist from breaking your wrist and it's never recovered, you can ask your higher self to heal it, and they bring the healing through. And as long as you trust and believe in the power of your spirit, it will heal. And this is, again, the proof is in the healing. So I've had a man that went into his past life, and we got the highest. Yeah.
You know, when you say subconscious, right? So I'm confused about this. So this man that you spoke about, okay? So this man is, let's say this is me, Tania. When I go into my past life, let's say I became Mary, okay? So Mary is one, and then how is the subconscious different from the higher self? So who's the subconscious there, and what's the higher self?
It's the same. I believe it's a level. So Dolores Cannon will just refer to it as the same. So the subconscious is the higher self. It's just what you want to call it. So it's that part of your mind. So it's the deep part of your mind that holds all of the information of every lesson you've ever learned, every life experience, every karma that you've put out, every ancestor you've ever crossed paths with, everyone, everything. So the subconscious has all of that information, and some souls comes back to frequency. So some souls are quite worldly. The more worldly and open they are, will tend to be how deep they will go. So you will go in your session, you will go, even with past life hypnotherapy, it's the same thing. So we kind of, hypnosis is the same. Hypnosis is a state we guide you into. So whether I'm doing past life hypnotherapy or QHHT, I'm still using the state of hypnosis to guide you into. So we're going to get the same result. We're just doing it in a different way that I've already explained. So the subconscious is that deep part of you where the ego is not there. So the ego is pushed aside. We have the ego, which is, Dolores Cannon calls the ego Mr. Stupid. So it's like the little, you could imagine it as like the little reptilian sending all these negative thoughts into your head, or the little devil sitting on your shoulder telling you to go and do something really silly. So that's the ego. The ego doesn't like change, so it will try to sabotage. And hypnosis is when the ego is pushed aside. So in hypnotherapy we call it the critical factor. The critical part of your mind that keeps you safe, keeps you in that fight, flight, freeze zone, and also allows all that patterning to keep you safe. You know what I mean by patterning? All the patterns. So as we go through life, we get told by our grandparents, our parents, aunts, teachers, how we are meant to do something, how we're not meant to be, how we are meant to be. So what we do is we allow these patterns to block our true self. So we allow these programs to dictate who we are, and we push down and suppress the true parts of ourselves. We suppress them down here. So what past life regression actually does is helps us delve into those parts of our shadow that we don't know about. So they can start to bubble up to the surface, and we'll get insight about whatever it is, just like that limiting belief that I just explained that man had. He had no clue that he was holding on to that limiting belief until it came up in the session, and then he was able to clear it. Once you know where it's come from, why it's happened, and usually I'll always try to get the lesson with the client as well. It's really important that you get as much information about the situation as we can, including the lesson. The lesson's really important. It might be understanding, it might be knowing, it might be strength, a lesson of strength, courage, or it might be a lesson of healing in situations where you'll get people incarnated with children with disability. There's usually a contract of healing in there. Nothing's random. So those two souls, so let's say a mother's incarnated with a child that has special needs. Those souls have either chosen to make that soul contract for the lessons learned, or more than likely they've come from another lifetime where there was a role reversal and there was some karma that needed to be paid back. Or one of them's done something really mean to the other one and they've had to come back and pay that karma back. So everything's karma.
You know, all the examples you've given, I already know people. Like when you speak about these examples, I already know people like that. And I feel like you were probably talking about their story subconsciously. In one of the workshops I attended with you, you said, let's go into the past life. And I'm always very skeptical about all of these things because I've been raised in a situation where it's very conservative. I mean, even right now, right? When I'm trying to do the podcast, I'm talking about stuff which is so out of normal. It's just so abnormal. And my colleagues are watching it, my friends are watching it. They don't know if I'm joking or if I'm serious. They don't know if I've gone crazy, if they don't understand what's happening. And during one of the workshops I attended, you told us to imagine the past life. The first workshop I attended asked me to imagine the past life, and I started thinking about something, but I was like, this is just BS, and I stopped it. I was like, no, this is not working. Probably it is not meant for me. But then you said that you've got to trust it. So the second time, I trusted it, and I allowed the visions to just keep coming. And what came up was that there was one where you said, go to a place which was an important date in your past life, an important time. And what I imagined was me being an angel, and there is God, and then me and the other angels were interacting with each other, with God, working on healing the earth. And that you said go to an important time. And an important time was about me having to leave that place, which seemed like heaven, or which was like this beautiful, big, grand castle with all of us. So peaceful. I had jobs to do, but the job was not stressful. It was just something that was beautiful. Everybody was unconditionally loving. What struck me was when you said to go to that important date, and when I had to leave the place, I started crying in real life. I just started crying, and I'm like, and it was so painful for me. I'm like, why would I cry if I was just making this up? Right? The feeling that I felt of me being there with God and the angels, and the joy and the love that I felt, that felt so real, and that felt like home. And it was like, I'm missing home. I'm leaving home to go to some place.
You know you went home, don't you?
Yeah, that felt home. Yeah. Yeah.
That's your start. That's where you're from. That's where you went. And this is so many souls that come to me are lost. Usually I will get souls that are just lost and they need direction. And this is why we do this. We do this to help them understand that everything you've gone through is part of your purpose. You volunteered to be here. We've all volunteered to come here. Whether we're old souls that have had infinite lives on earth, or whether we're young souls that's our first incarnation, we've volunteered to come here. And unfortunately, some souls volunteer to come here to help raise the vibration so that we can all move in with the frequency of the earth. As we move into the earth, we volunteer to do it, but then we get stuck on the karmic wheel. And that's why a lot of souls that come to the planet, I probably shouldn't call it a planet, let's just call it Mother Earth. When we come to Mother Earth, it's all about trying to not create more karma for ourselves. But unfortunately, we get stuck into the fears, and that we get targeted by all the AI and the fear porn that's going on around the place. So we read into those fears, and we end up in misalignment with our true selves, who we truly are. So by having a past life session, it will help you start to realize why you came here. It will help you every time you go into a past life. It helps you uncover who you are, who you truly are. And going home was really powerful, because trust that, because nothing is random. You were meant to see that. That was to remind you of unconditional love. You are that unconditional love. And unfortunately, we're programmed. We've been programmed on Mother Earth. So to let go of all that programming, it's really important as we move through the photon belt to do everything we can to align to our true self. And that's whether we meditate, through meditation, through past life regression, QHHT, through working with the Kundalini yoga, Qigong, whichever way you choose to do it. We just have to do it. We just have to keep going inside, because the true self is here, not out there. The true love, the unconditional love is here, not out there.
That feeling that the thing is, that feeling that came up, right? The emotion, that just felt so real. And it's true that this fear keeps blocking us all the time. When I'm doing this podcast, for example, I can feel like I'm getting more and more distant from the people that I know. It's like I'm not able to have a normal conversation with them anymore. They are not able to have a normal conversation with me anymore. And now my friends are the people that I speak to on the podcast, like yourself and the other people that I meet, who I'm not meeting in physical space, right? It's just online. And today in my meditation, and I was feeling a little sad about that. And in my meditation today, I was thinking, okay, what am I supposed to do? And you know, that what I saw of home, that feeling of home came up again. And it was this vision which said that I'm here to create that same feeling of home on the planet again. And this podcast would help do that, because we have to create it over here. Because I was feeling like I was missing home again, but that's what you and me and all of us are supposed to be doing.
Your home, your true home is here. And you can go there. Before you go to bed, ask your guides, whether you call it your guides, your higher self, your angels. You're very connected to the angelic realms. Ask the angels to come and visit you in your dreams, to bring you wisdom, to take you home, to guide you home. Go and meet with them. And if you find you waking up and you're forgetting your dreams, ask them to help you remember your dreams. So when you say it, ask to connect. And I'll ask 3 times. So I'll say, my angels, my angels, my angels. Or you could call it, my higher self, my higher self, my higher self. Always in 3s, because that gives it more power. So just try that. Just call them in 3s. Can you please bring me guidance tonight when I dream? Please take me home. Connect me with you. Bring me guidance. And please help me remember. I'm so excited to connect with you. I'm excited to be home again. I'm excited for you to bring me the wisdom I need on my journey. And can you please help me to remember my dreams? I'm excited to have the gift of being able to remember my dreams. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And really feel the love. When you say it, feel the love in your heart when you say it. And amplify that all the way out into the universe. And the more you do that every night, you'll just glide into your dreams. They may show you past lives where there's wisdom, but every time you do it, you're connecting every time and you'll get new wisdom. You actually don't need to go and have past life regression if you have a strong connection here, but not everybody does. And they need that assistance, that guidance, that help by coming to someone like me that's going to guide them to their higher wisdom, whatever it is.
How can we know that it is time to get, like, what kind of people, if for my audience who's watching now, right? How do they know that it is good for them to get a past life regression? Like, what would be some of the reasons why someone would get it done?
If you have a physical health issue, and it may not even be anything serious, it may be something like anxiety that's affecting the nerves, where you just get really nervous and anxious. It might be Hashimoto's in the throat, or it might be a sore toe that just keeps throbbing, want to get to the bottom of it. So what's happened, the physical body is starting to show signs of dis-ease, and that is because everything starts at the soul level. Everything starts at the level of the soul. Even the thought starts at the level of the soul. Then it moves into the level of the thought. Then it moves into the level of the feeling, the emotion. And you're getting all these messages. Soul level you don't really pick up on, because that's at the level of the soul. It's usually soul contracts, ancestral, karmic, okay? The level of the soul we don't always pick up on unless you're a psychic like me that delves into going into the Akashic records of a person, of a human soul. So the soul we don't always pick up on unless you know what you're doing. So if you miss that, you can get it at the level of the thought. So in saying that, it's really important to listen to your thoughts. And when you get a thought, so that question that you just asked, it will be thoughts. You're getting these negative thoughts. I'm stressed. I'm so stressed. I'm so worried. So if you've got stress, worry, anxiety, depression, if you're getting sad thoughts, or it's gone past the level of the thought and it's in the level of the emotion, feeling. So you're feeling really frustrated. I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm feeling really angry. I feel like I want to go and throw myself off a cliff, kind of, like everything's just too much, overwhelmed. I feel so stressed, overwhelmed. So if it's starting to affect your feelings and you're still not doing anything about it, then it will start to affect the physical body. So if you have any physical body issues, you need to have a past life regression. It will uncover. It will get to the bottom. As long as you go to a therapist that knows what they're doing, it will uncover the root cause of your issue. And then from then, you can heal it in the session, or you can receive the wisdom that you need to heal it. And most hypnotherapists will record the session, so you get a copy of it. And part of your healing process is going over the recording and listening back to it and doing everything that your higher self has told you to do to heal.
If before we get on a call with you and do a past life regression, right? Like I had so many blockages. I still have, where I don't trust what I'm saying because I'm very logical. So how can we prepare better before we do a session? How can we open our third eye?
What I do when I was starting on my journey, tapping on the face. So finding a couple of minutes a day to connect in with the higher self, connect your heart to your third eye, and just tap on that area to open it up. And while you're tapping, asking your guides, angels, higher self, to open your third eye. And you can even imagine them coming into the room and bringing their energy in. So it's like when you see when souls channel. I'm sure everybody has their own way of channeling, but when souls channel, mine comes in from the inside. So I just feel it on the inside. But you can actually imagine it, because nothing's really outside of us, but by using your imagination and just imagining the energies coming into the room and aligning with your third eye to open it up. And just imagine your angels and your guides taking any calcification away that no longer serves your highest good. And just tapping on the meridian there. Now you can do this where you put your fingers on your forehead and squeeze, just run it all the way along your head, the side of your head. Just run it all the way along there, down in front of your ears there, and bring it all the way down here and give that a rub. And do it again, just play with it, to massage. All while you're focusing on your angels your guides to open this whole area up for you. And again. And you can imagine them taking any remnants, you can flick it away, and imagine them just taking it away. Imagine your angels just carrying it away, taking it away. So this is a really powerful physical thing that you can do to help open your third eye up. Another thing you can do is work with essential oils. So you can put tea tree. Tea tree works really well. Frankincense there as well. You can come to my past life workshops where you practice. So just coming to my past life workshops, I hold 2 a month, and they're different times, so there should be a time that suits. So just coming to I'm doing shadow healing workshops and past life workshops where we connect with our spirit guides. So practicing that connection. You can do meditation. There's a meditation for intuition on my website where you can practice connecting with your spirit guide over and over and over. And it teaches you how to connect. So just practice with that connection. And what it does, it helps to build, coming to the workshops especially, helps to build your own trust and belief. So you get to know the difference between, am I making this up or is this real? Because with people, with newbies, it takes a while. It's like riding a bike. So everybody is psychic. You're very psychic, Tania. You just don't, you're not at that trust level yet, but you should really trust it. So everybody is psychic. The more you practice riding the bike, the better you're going to be at it. The only difference with me and someone that's starting out new is I've done the yards, I've ridden the bike, I've ridden the marathon. So I've just done a lot more practice, but we are all born with psychic abilities. We are all born with the ability to remember all of our lives. We're all born with that. Birth. We are born with the ability to remember our past lives. I'll give you an example. When my son he's 14 now. When he was 2, his vocabulary was actually quite good for a 2-year-old. And I was starting to ask him questions. Harrison, do you remember your other mummy? Do you remember your other daddy? Do you remember? And he'd be like, yes, this is a 2-year-old. Yes, I lived in Iowa. And it's interesting I brought up that cornfield life. I lived in Iowa. I lived on a corn farm. We lived in a cornfield. And I had a brother called Michael. Clear as day, he would talk about this life. And so that's proof that they remember, they know. So for all those viewers out there listening that have little people, start asking them questions because you'll be surprised at what they know. My nephew, when he was about 3, he was going through one of the family photo albums. And my sister was flicking through the family album with him, and he looked at his great-grandfather, and he pointed to the great-grandfather and he said, "What am I doing in this book?" And my sister said, No, that's not you, that's Poppy. He's like, "No, that's me. What am I doing in this book?" So it was him, and this is actually quite common. We are our ancestors. We incarnate. If you feel like the black sheep of the family and you just don't resonate with the family, that's an indication that you haven't incarnated in this family before, but you've made contracts with the souls in that family in order to help, usually with clearing their generational karma. So you've come in as the wiser older soul to come in and help that family learn the lessons that they need to learn. But if you have connections with certain members of the family, then that's an indication that you have incarnated in that family bloodline before. Sometimes it'll jump. So if you feel misconnected, like you don't have a connection with them. You may still be in the bloodline somewhere, like me. I'm actually my 7th generational grandfather, so I'm way up there somewhere. So we do follow each other, but if you're in a family, and you'll find the more you get on your spiritual path, this is really important to know, the more you get on your bike and gliding on your spiritual path, others are going to think you're a nut job that don't resonate, because you're raising your frequency, you're raising your channel, and they're staying there. And eventually it just doesn't go well together. So you will lose friends. I've lost so many friends, even spiritual friends, because the more I started to glide on my journey forward, I got, some friends just didn't like it. They were either jealous or didn't agree with the woo-woo-ness of it. They were more different spiritually. So and that's what happens. We're in a split earth. So we have infinite parallels. So the parallel that we're vibrating on right now is what the sum of all your choices are. So if you're choosing to do everything to align with your divine soul blueprint, your true self, and it may be going inward, doing a meditation. I'm going to do a meditation to find out more about what I'm good at, because I want to find out more about that. So don't just meditate because I just want to go and be calm and peaceful and meditate in the light. That's not why we meditate, I don't believe. There are some souls that do that because that's their purpose, but it's not mine. I'm here more to help others get on their path to being the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. So you can go inward and say, I'm going to meditate to find out more about my gift, my soul gift. Trust it. Trust that. Connect. Ask 3 times before you connect, and always say thank you, thank you, thank you. Connect in your heart and go and meet your spirit guide inside of yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, my meditation for intuition is made to guide you into your Akashic record of your soul, to meet your spirit guide. Then once you've met your guide, you ask the question about what's my gift, and wait for it. And it's always that first subtle message that comes through. And I talk about this in my workshops. So it might be a feeling in your heart. It might be a vision that you see. You might see yourself doing carpentry, making things with wood and loving it and aligning to your highest truth, making people happy with all these beautiful wooden creations. So we're here to create. We're here to be more creative, whether it's through song or dance or actually physically making things to help people, or creating cooking, or we're all here to create in some way. But unfortunately, we get led off our path because of the system, the matrix system. And what happens, our little baby children that are meant to come into this world remembering their past lives and everything that they're good at, they remember all that. We smother them with all this programming, and it just builds up layers and layers of stuff that's not their highest good, and it's not. It moves them further and further away from being their true selves. So past life regression, hypnotherapy, or QHHT are 2 beautiful tools, or any other hypnotherapy for that matter. They're beautiful tools to help souls to align back to their true selves, to understand themselves and align them back to their highest truth.
That's beautiful. And I highly recommend the workshops that you conduct as well. I think it really opened up. And I know there's a lot of work that I have to do, and those are amazing workshops. I was shocked by what I was thinking too. So I highly recommend that. You also do the Akashic reading as well, right? Do you think you can, I'm not sure if it's possible, do you think it's possible to access the Akashic record to give a message to my audience who's watching?
So I mostly do Akashic Records readings for clients one-on-one. So I would go into your Akashic record, pull out your blocks, tell you which chakra it's relating to, and help you heal from whatever the blockage is. It might be a spell, it might be a curse, it might be a... So on a collective level, the planet is going through a massive dark night of the soul as a collective. And this is why so many of us are experiencing, some a lot more than others. And the reason some souls are experiencing the suffering and the pain and the hurt a lot more than others is because usually they're the ones that are here to fix the problem. But a lot of them have fallen off their path, they've lost their way. But it's those beautiful star seeds that have chosen difficult lives of pain, suffering. So the Middle East, for example, the Middle East is full of angelic people, angelic souls, such as yourself. The Middle East is full of high vibrational souls that have chosen to come here to go through trauma, pain, hurt, suffering, to move through it, not sit in it. And the problem we have is so many sit in victimhood to no fault of their own, but they've lost their way. So it's really important that we start spreading the word. When you know of a way that you can heal yourself, tell your friends, help your friends, so that you can start to help whatever you learn on your spiritual path, teach it to others. Teach it. I don't mind if somebody goes and teaches everything I've said in my workshop, as long as it's going to help humanity in some way. I really don't care. I'm not allowed to record it because that past life workshop that I do, that's Dolores Cannon's actual, a lot of the materials in there is Dolores Cannon's actual past life workshops. I'm not allowed to record that one, but any of my other workshops, I really don't care, as long as it's helping humanity. So we are on this trajectory of a massive shift in Dark Night of the Soul. So this is the year of the dragon. I don't know if your viewers know that, but this is the year of the dragon. So I look at it as you're catching your dragon this year. So you can either catch your dragon, do everything you can to help yourself, go inward, go inside, do the workshops, do the meditations, do everything you can to find who you truly are at the level of the soul. Take a little bit of time out of the day to yourself to meditate so that you can start to go inward. And the more you go inward and start to align with yourself, you will glide on your dragon. Your dragon's going to come and pick you up, and you can jump on your dragon and get a beautiful, comfortable seat and just glide on your dragon into New Earth. So that's where I am. So you can come with me and glide on your dragon and do everything that you can to keep working on being in the highest frequency that you can possibly. Or you can catch your dragon, you can do a little bit, make a little change, be open to making a little bit of change, jump on your dragon, and you might only catch the dragon's tail, but you're going to get a really bumpy ride, but you're on there. You're on the way to New Earth, but it's going to be a really bumpy ride. So those that just put in a little bit of effort, they're going to be okay, and you're going to be able to come where we are. And the ride will get better the more you start to accept, understand that you are perfect. You should love yourself unconditionally because you are perfect and beautiful. Trust that. And just understand that you've chosen everything that you've chosen. So you may get a bit of a bumpy ride, but you're going to be okay. But then there's going to be the ones that miss the ride. And unfortunately, there's a lot of souls that are lost, are not in alignment with their true self. So we're in this split, third dimensional, fifth dimensional split. So those that are open to change, those that are happy to stand up, fight for our rights, fight for our truth, stand in our power and catch their dragon, they're going to be okay. But these ones over here that are asleep, unfortunately, they've got no hope in this timeline. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean that they've got no hope. They're not going to stay on this timeline. Do you understand that? So there's a timeline this way, that's moving into new earth. It's a really positive ride that way. Then there's the timelines going in this direction. So those souls that are asleep will miss their dragon. They're not coming to new earth with us, but they will incarnate onto a timeline that resonates to their life lessons and purpose. So we're all in, this is how we really need to, don't read into the divide. Don't judge. If someone on a completely different path to you, completely different religion to you, and you just don't understand how they're doing what they're doing, it's perfectly fine for them. It's resonating to their life lessons, and we just have to accept that it's because they're on this timeline and we're on this timeline, and that's just perfect. So if we can just not judge, lose the judgment, we're all going to be okay. And they will eventually catch back up with us. So you'll find that when we, on the other side, so when we go over to the other side, we're all together. We are the oneness. At the end of the day, it's like where Dolores Cannon calls it the cast of characters. So it's like we're on this stage show. This is a stage show. And you create your play. So you can create whatever character you want to be. If you want to be the princess, be the princess. If you want to be pagan witch, if that's going to help you step into your power, be the pagan witch that's going to help you step into your power. If you want to be an elephant, be the elephant, because that's going to help you with whatever your life lessons are over there. And we have been animals. I have regressed souls into past lives where they have been animal. An ant. I had a lady that was an ant.
Oh, what was their purpose?
So we were shown, and in saying that, ants have emotions. It was a very emotional session. Ants have emotions. So if you go to kill an ant, think again, because this little ant had broken his hip and she had hip problems. So from that lifetime of being an ant where she lost her mum, she lost her family and was separated from her family. So abandonment set in, and then she went on this downward spiral and fell and hurt her hip. And it was really emotional. It was one of the most emotional sessions I've ever had. It was unbelievable. And then I had another one. A man was an eagle, and he was a beautiful, spectacular sea eagle. He was broke. He was, do you know broke? The word broke? So he was poor. He was having financial problems. So to the point of he couldn't pay his bills, so he came for a session to help. What am I going to do? My business is falling apart. And they showed him his life as an eagle where he had confidence. He was the ruler of the island and he had so much confidence, and he was able to go into that life and feel the power and confidence of that eagle in his solar plexus. And he put all that power and confidence back into his solar plexus and went back out into his life, and he, in the real world again, grew the confidence to build his business all the way back up. And his problem was he wasn't confident enough to approach people. But as soon as he started, he got that confidence, and he's earning money in the 300,000s now. So he's doing really well. The last time I spoke to him, he was doing really well. And he's since come back for a couple more sessions. So every time you come for a session, you learn something different about yourself. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful. I mean, I just recently was thinking, okay, what's the purpose of these ants? Because I keep killing them all the time. And when we don't kill them, then you've got to call the pest controls, right? So, so that's eye-opening.
Yeah, I think just trying to work out a way to keep them outside is probably the best policy, because every time we kill something, that's upsetting that chain. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Tara. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have one final question. Where can my audience find you?
I am at signsofabundance.com.au, and you can find my workshops at signsofabundance.com.au /group workshops. I am on Instagram, but I don't use it very often. But I also have a YouTube channel. I'm on YouTube as well. So you can just go to Tara J Clarke, Signs of Abundance, and you'll see my YouTube channel there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tara. This has been such a wonderful session. We got to hear so much wisdom from you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everything you're doing for humanity. I know that you're a very busy lady, and what you're doing is absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for having me and spreading your beautiful love.
Thank you.
Thank you.